Have you ever felt like you were chosen but forgotten? Like you're carrying something divine inside of you, but the world doesn't see it yet? If that question gave you chills, then you're exactly where you need to be. Welcome to the chosen path. This isn't just a video, it's a divine appointment. You're about to uncover truths that will shift your mindset, awaken your spirit, and remind you of who you truly are. By the end of this journey, you won't just be informed, you'll be transformed. So, breathe deep, sit up straight, and prepare yourself, because the crown is being prepared, and you were never ordinary. Let's begin. Some people will never understand the weight you carry. You walk into rooms and feel every unspoken tension. You sense betrayal before it happens. You notice patterns others ignore. But instead of being appreciated, you're called too intense, too sensitive, or too much. Yet, what they call a burden is actually a spiritual radar. It's not weakness, it's a divine gift. You didn't ask for this awareness, but you were chosen for it. The test wasn't to break you, it was to awaken you. That strange resistance you've felt your whole life? It wasn't in your head. It was spiritual friction. The enemy tried to distract you because he knew what you were carrying. You were never ordinary, and that made you a threat from the beginning. So you had to learn in silence. Cry in private. Fight invisible battles with no applause. While others slept peacefully, you wrestled with purpose at 3 a.m. Not because you're broken, but because you're being built. You weren't being punished. You were being trained in secret. Now, that season is ending. The shift has begun. You're not behind. You're not late. You're right on time for the crown that's being prepared. Heaven saw every tear, every sacrifice, every time you kept your faith when it would have been easier to quit. That's why the reward will be public, because your obedience was private. You were tested in the dark. Now you rise in the light. And here's the truth. Not everyone can come with you. Some people are not meant to witness your elevation. God hid you, not to shame you, but to shield you, because the crown you're about to wear would blind those who never believed in you. So let them talk. Let them doubt. But don't look back. You're not who you used to be, and you're not going back. You always felt different. Even in a crowd, something set you apart. Not in arrogance, but in assignment. You carried a depth you couldn't explain. While others chased attention, you longed for meaning. That wasn't by accident. It was the whisper of destiny, pulling you into alignment. You didn't fit in because you weren't supposed to. Every time you were overlooked, it wasn't rejection, it was redirection. Heaven was blocking access to places too small for your calling. That job that didn't work out? That friend who betrayed you? It all had to happen. Because you were being moved, not misplaced. Sometimes, delay is divine protection dressed in disappointment. Your isolation was sacred. You had to be alone so you could hear clearly. The noise of the crowd would have drowned out the whisper of God, but in the quiet you heard it. You are chosen, not for comfort, but for greatness, not for approval, but for assignment. And that calling doesn't beg to be understood. It demands to be obeyed. Now, the shift is visible. The glow on your face isn't just confidence, it's confirmation. People feel it before you speak. They sense you're not the same, because you're not. You've been stretched, broken, and rebuilt by fire. And now, you walk with the weight of someone who has survived what others didn't even see. This is the moment you were made for. You're not here to explain yourself. You're here to embody your purpose. You're not proving your worth. You're walking in it. Keep your focus. Guard your peace. And never shrink to make others comfortable. The crown is coming. But first, your posture must match your purpose. You were never meant to blend in. The fire inside you was too bright, too uncontrollable for small minds to grasp. So they tried to dim you, called you arrogant, too ambitious, too intense. But what they didn't know was that your intensity was survival. You didn't choose the fire, life threw you into it, and you walked out, shining. They never saw the nights you almost gave up, the days you kept pushing while your heart was breaking, the times you encouraged others while silently falling apart yourself. That's strength, real strength, not loud, not flashy, but unshakable. And the heavens recorded every act of silent resilience. That's why the reward will not be silent. Now you're stepping into rooms where your name was once rejected. Tables you were never invited to are now being expanded for your arrival. What changed? You did. You stopped asking for validation. You stopped begging to be seen. You remembered who you are. And that shook everything around you. You are the storm that refuses to be forecasted. Unpredictable, untouchable, unapologetic. When you walk, energy shifts. When you speak, spirits move, because your presence is prophetic. Not everyone will understand it. That's okay. They weren't assigned to your path. The moment you embraced your difference, heaven marked you for elevation. You're not competing, you're not chasing, you're aligning. And when the time is right, even time will bow to your calling. Because when you're chosen, delay is not denial. It's divine design. The people who betrayed you didn't break you. They built you. They taught you what love isn't, what loyalty isn't, what you'll never tolerate again. Yes, it hurt. But now you see it. They weren't the curse. They were the catalyst. And without that wound, you wouldn't have found your weapon. You used to question why God allowed so much pain. But now you understand. He was teaching you war. Not against people, but against doubt, fear, and self-sabotage. You were learning how to protect your peace, how to hear His voice in the chaos, how to walk away without explanation. That's spiritual maturity. And now, you're not triggered. You're trained. The things that used to shake you now sharpen you. The insults that once broke you now bounce off you. You're unrecognizable to your past self. And that's exactly the point. Growth doesn't always look graceful, but it always looks necessary. The most dangerous version of you is the one who knows their worth. The one who doesn't beg, doesn't chase, doesn't explain. The one who knows that silence is a weapon, solitude is sacred, and rejection is redirection. You've become that version now. You've become the danger they warned themselves about. You are no longer in survival mode. You are in strategy mode. You don't react. You respond. You don't fight for attention. You attract alignment. You don't compete for love. You command it through presence. The test is over, and the crown isn't coming. It's already in transit. Your silence was louder than any scream. When they left, when they lied, when they pushed you to the edge, you didn't beg. You didn't chase. You stood still. And in that stillness, you discovered your power. The kind of power that doesn't shake rooms, it shakes dimensions. Silence is not weakness. It's spiritual warfare. While they misunderstood your silence, heaven interpreted it as obedience. You weren't responding to them because you were answering to something higher. The silence gave you clarity. It revealed their true colors, and it revealed your true calling. You were never meant to argue for your place. You were meant to own it. The most powerful shift in your journey was when you realized you don't have to prove anything. Not your worth, not your heart, not your pain. The people who matter will already know, and the ones who don't will never understand. That moment, that's when you stepped into authority. Not arrogance, divine authority. It's in the quiet moments that kings are crowned. While the world chases noise, you chose stillness. That's why you hear things others can't. You sense danger before it arrives. You feel energy before it speaks. That's not paranoia. It's prophetic insight. That's what happens when you survive the test. And now, your energy speaks before you do. You enter rooms and shift the atmosphere because you carry peace in your silence and power in your stillness. They may not know your name yet, but they feel your presence. And soon, the world will realize the most dangerous voice is the one that chose not to shout. You've outgrown the version of yourself who used to beg for love. That person who settled for crumbs, who lowered their light just to be accepted, who tolerated dishonor just to feel wanted. They don't live here anymore. You buried them in the fire, and what rose from the ashes was royalty. When you started loving yourself, everything changed. Not in a loud way, but in a soul-deep, unshakable way. You stopped needing to be chosen, because you realized you already were. Chosen by God. Chosen by purpose. Chosen by destiny. And that kind of choosing doesn't require anyone's approval. People can feel the shift, even if they don't understand it. They'll say, "You're different now." And they're right. You no longer chase, you attract. You no longer please, you protect. You no longer explain, you simply walk away. That's not attitude. That's ascension. You realized love isn't supposed to hurt, that peace isn't supposed to be earned, that the right people don't make you question your worth, they remind you of it. And now that you've tasted that truth, you'll never again settle for emotional poverty. This new you doesn't beg. This new you doesn't break for attention. This new you walks like they know angels are assigned to them. And guess what? They are. The test is over. The crown is being fitted, and the world is about to meet the version of you that love built, not pain. You're no longer the version of yourself who waited for permission. You've stopped looking for green lights from people who never believed in your destination. Something clicked, something shifted, and now you move without announcements. You build in silence. You protect what's sacred. And you understand, Beat, that elevation requires separation. The ones who left couldn't go where you're headed. They were part of your story, but not your legacy. And that's okay. Let them go. Don't chase closure from people who never deserved your openness. You've seen what happens when you dim your light to fit in, and you're never doing it again. Now, you glow unapologetically. You are becoming what your past self prayed for. All those nights you cried and questioned your worth, they created this version of you, grounded, focused, unshakable. The type of person who walks away from chaos without looking back. Not because you're cold, but because you're healed. When people see you now, they think it happened overnight. They don't see the scars under your smile, the silence behind your strength, the discipline behind your peace. They have no idea how many storms you walked through alone. But heaven knows, and that's why favor follows you. This chapter is different. You don't have to knock anymore. Doors open when you arrive. You don't have to scream anymore. Your presence speaks volumes. You don't need validation because you carry revelation. And the people meant for you? They won't need subtitles to understand your soul. Your energy is sacred now. You don't just give it away. You've learned the difference between connections and distractions, between chemistry and calling, between being chosen and being used. You no longer confuse effort with alignment. Because now you know, peace is the real proof. Not everyone deserves access to you. Some people only want to be close so they can study your glow and try to duplicate it. But what's divine can't be duplicated. You carry something heaven-breathed, not man-made, and that kind of power can't be copied. It can only be carried by the called. You used to try to explain your vision to people with no spiritual eyesight. That's over now. You're done watering dead soil. You're done proving yourself to the blind. You've realized that your presence alone convicts those who aren't aligned. So now, you speak less and move more. It's not loneliness. It's divine insulation. God is keeping you hidden because your next level requires protection. This isn't rejection. It's preparation. You're not being overlooked. You're being preserved. You're not being delayed. You're being developed. And when the reveal comes, it'll make sense. The isolation, the silence, the detours, the pain. All of it was sacred. All of it was for this moment. Because when God finally unveils what He's been building in you, even your enemies will have to say, that had to be God. You've been told you're too much your whole life, but that was never the truth. The truth is, you were too real for a world addicted to fake. You were too deep for shallow hearts, too awake in a world asleep. They didn't reject you. They rejected the reflection of their own limitations when they looked at you. You mirror their fears, their laziness, their refusal to grow. And when someone unhealed meets someone evolved, they call them a threat. You weren't made to be understood by everyone. You're coded for the called, designed for destiny, crafted for sacred spaces. You don't think like the masses because you weren't made for the mediocre. Your mind sees patterns, your heart feels frequencies, and your spirit discerns energies most people aren't even aware of. You're not paranoid. You're prophetic. You're not dramatic. You're divinely tuned. Your sensitivity is your superpower. You feel what others suppress. You notice what others ignore. That's not an accident. It's a calling. You walk into a room and can feel if the energy is off. You speak and the atmosphere shifts. That's not coincidence. That's authority. Stop hiding it. Stop apologizing for it. The world needs more of that kind of light, not less. The truth is, you scare people who live in masks. Your authenticity reveals their performance. Your wholeness reminds them of their fragments, and instead of rising, they retreat. But that's not your burden to carry. You're not here to fix people who are committed to staying broken. You're here to become fully, loudly, unapologetically. So the next time you're called too intense, smile. It means your energy is working. It means your light is activating. It means your spirit is being felt even before your words are spoken. You were never meant to be ordinary. Your presence is disruptive because your soul carries revelation. The ones meant for you will never flinch at your fire. They'll bow to its warmth. The test is over, not because the challenges are gone, but because you've passed the internal exam. The one where you chose peace over reaction. The one where you walked away instead of begging to be seen. The one where you stopped waiting for a sign and realized you are the sign. You didn't just survive the wilderness, you learned how to lead in it. This is no longer about proving anything to anyone. The version of you that was desperate for approval died in the fire. What emerged is royalty. You wear your wounds like armor now. You carry silence like a sword. And you've built an inner world so strong, no storm can shake it. That's the kind of unshakable peace that only comes from walking through hell without losing your heaven. You don't need everyone to clap. You don't need the crowd, because the crown wasn't placed in public. It was prepared in private. At 3:33 a.m., when your soul whispered, "I'm ready," heaven heard you. Angels were assigned. The crown descended, and it fit perfectly, because it was molded by every betrayal, every delay, every sleepless night. Now you walk differently, not faster, but fuller. Every step you take is laced with intention. You don't chase, you attract. You don't fear the unknown, you trust the timing. You've seen too much, healed too deeply, and grown too far to ever shrink again. This is your rise, not for validation, but for vibration. You're rising because your frequency has outgrown the old. And now, you take the throne. Not a literal one, but the seat of your soul, where you no longer bow to fear, to doubt, to scarcity. You sit in truth. You move in purpose. You wear the crown, not for decoration, but for domination. You are the chosen one. The test is over, and heaven has officially opened the gates. You've walked through every word of this message because your soul recognized the truth behind it. Not everyone could endure this journey, but you did. And that alone proves you were never average. You were never meant to blend in. You were built for the chosen path. Now pause, breathe, and ask yourself, what part of this message shook you the most? What did your spirit whisper back as you listened? That's the part you were meant to hear. In a world full of noise, you chose alignment. In a world chasing crowns, you chose to earn yours. And that makes you unstoppable. If this message found you at the right moment, let the world know you're awake. Drop "the chosen path" in the comments to show you made it all the way to the end. And share with us, what truth did this message awaken in you? Your crown is closer than you think. But first, walk with the weight of someone who remembers who they are.